Hello, church. So today is Monday, June 9th. We just got started with Psalm 78 on Saturday. I think we're going to be doing this one in a total of about 5 parts. I'm trying to keep the readings within a little more manageable task, and yeah, it gives us some stuff to work on. So as a reminder, we uplifted that kind of old wise saying or proverb of those who forget their past are doomed to repeat it. This is a psalm that is uplifting several pieces from the history of Israel and their journey in time in the wilderness, reliance and resistance to God. And good lessons for the modern here as well, calling us to be reminded of God's steadfast love and faithfulness, Hesed. There's a couple of other phrases that James Mays will be introducing to us, which was a learning for me and happy to share with you. But we'll be starting with the NRSV. This will be picking up so we did the first 8 verses as our first section. It's identified as a maskil of Asaph. The next section we're going to be doing is verses 9 through 22. The Ephraimites, armed with the bow, turned back on the day of battle. They did not keep God's covenant, but refused to walk according to his law. They forgot what he had done and the miracles that he had shown them. In the sight of their ancestors, he worked marvels in the land of Egypt, in the fields of Zoan. He divided the sea and let them pass through it, and made the waters stand like a heap. In the daytime, he led them with a cloud, and all night long with a fiery light. He split rocks open in the wilderness and gave them drink abundantly as from the deep. He made streams come out of the rock and caused waters to flow down like rivers. Yet they sinned still more against him, rebelling against the Most High in the desert. They tested God in their heart by demanding the food they craved. They spoke against God, saying, "Can God spread a table in the wilderness? Even though he struck the rock so that water gushed out and torrents overflowed, can he also give bread or provide meat for his people?" Therefore, when the Lord heard, he was full of rage. A fire was kindled against Jacob. His anger mounted against Israel because they had no faith in God and did not trust his saving power. That point is one where Mays picks up from in our next section from the commentary. And he is talking about this speech. The speech has a long introduction in 2 parts. The introduction explains at some length what the speech is about and what its purpose is in verses 1 through 11. And a reminder, we started with 9, so hitting those last couple of sections with 9 to 11. It is identified as a parable or a mashal in Hebrew and riddles, hiddo, from the past. The psalm is a mashal because it deals in comparisons. The audience will be instructed not to be like their ancestors or like the Ephraimite bowmen who played false in the day of battle. The 2 principal parts then correspond to these 2 comparisons. The first turns on the failure of the ancestors of the wilderness generation in verses 12 to 39. The second turns on the failure of the ancestors that happened in Ephraimite territory in 40 to 72. The psalm contains hiddo, which are the riddles, and the recitals of things that happened in the past, from which meanings in the present are to be inferred. Each of the principal part follows the same pattern: recitation of the Lord's marvelous deeds for Israel, an instance of failure, the responding divine wrath, a concluding account of how the Lord maintained the relation with his sinful people. That continued faithfulness of God, even in the face of continued forgetting or losing track of or not continuing to abide and trust in those promises. And here's our bit from Peterson for today. The Ephraimites, armed to the teeth, ran off when the battle began. They were cowards to God's covenant, refused to walk by his word. They forgot what he had done, marvels he'd done right before their eyes. He performed miracles in plain sight of their parents in Egypt, out of the fields of Zoan. He split the sea and they walked right through it. He piled the waters to the right and the left. He led them by day with a cloud, led them all night long with a fiery torch. He split rocks in the wilderness, gave them all they could drink from underground springs. He made creeks flow out from sheer rock and water pour out like a river. All they did was sin even more, rebel in the desert against the high God. They tried to get their own way with God, clamored for favors, for special attention. They whined like spoiled children. Why can't God give us a decent meal in this desert? Sure, he struck the rock and water flowed, creeks cascaded from the rock. But how about some fresh baked bread? How about a nice cut of meat? Oh, good stuff, Peterson. When God heard that, he was furious. His anger flared against Jacob. He lost his temper with Israel. It was clear they didn't believe God, had no intention of trusting in his help. I did particularly like, I like Peterson's emphasis, because you start hearing kind of the exaggeration that is happening and how people are starting to belittle these really profound things going on. Sure, he struck the rock and the water flowed, creeks cascaded from the rock, but how about some fresh baked bread? How about a nice cut of meat? And he also used that analogy of spoiled children looking for, yet one more thing, testing those boundaries and seeing what all they could get and get away with. Woo! It's an interesting dynamic, because I imagine it is not too far of a step for us to come from Israel and then step into our own spiritual journey and lives and see our own forgetfulness, or those moments where we are shutting our eyes. It's easy to forget about the circumstances that God has seen us through in the past. It is easy for us to lose sight of those things and those moments when we saw God's presence and power at work. It is especially easy to do that when times are tough and challenging and we are scared. But coming back to that place of trust and of hope, of assurance and belief in God's covenant is our call to faith. All right. We'll be back with you with our next section in Psalm 78 on Tuesday. I think that's it. Got chicken barbecue coming up on Saturday. If you are helping with that, or if you are going to be eating that, we hope it goes very well, and look forward to sharing with our community. Have an excellent day, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.